a boom-bust darling of the JSE before Japan's Nippon Telegraph and Telephone Corporation bought it out in 2010 for just over $3 billion. Now, 5 years later, its technology is being used in one of the most prestigious races on the cycling calendar, the Tour de France. In case you haven't figured out which company I'm talking about, it's Dimension Data. Dimension Data, the owners of the campus in Bryanston, that big block of places with a golf course in the middle. This is Tonight. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I'm joined by Brett Dawson, the Dimension Data Group Chief Executive. Data. Now that you're Japanese, are you data or are you data?
I've always been data.
You data, forgive me. Data. Jeremy Ord will be cursing as he throws things at the screen. You have developed a platform which is going to change the nature of this year's Tour de France.
Well, what we've developed is the application service which will provide information, real quality information for the user, for the general public to be able to follow, understand, interpret what's really going on in the race.
Now, I watched the race. They're pretty chateaus as you go past. There's a man in a yellow jersey somewhere in the race, usually quite close to the front, and there's a pack of people wearing the same T-shirts. What more do I need to know?
Well, you're going to be able to know exactly where every rider is in that pack, as you said, who's leading, what the average speed is, who's going to be first and last, fastest rider, all kinds of information relevant to the race on an online real-time basis. You can track your own rider. If you prefer to watch one of the MTN Quebecer guys, you can pick them out and be able to actually trace where they are and how they're doing in a real-time basis.
I mean, this is taking data analytics and putting it into a consumer-friendly mechanism.
That's exactly right. We are presenting to the consumer an output which is information which we've collected through massive amounts of data on an online real-time basis.
Just how invasive is this? I mean, are the riders all wearing patches and things that will measure their heart rate and their sweat and all of that sort of stuff, or is it purely observational?
No, what it is there's a small device which you will see just underneath the saddle. So
you're adding weight to the bicycles.
You're adding
as long as it's the same for every bike, you'll be
every
fine.
bike's the same, and we're adding a small device, a transponder, which basically will then relay the information and we'll eventually get it.
Yeah. What information is it relaying and how quick
is it? The speed. Today it's basically your GPS position, your positioning of the bike, so then we can compute everything else we need to know.
Now, what is the value of this information to me as the user of it? I mean, other than great curiosity value and the fact that I can now sit and have an excuse to have my mobile phone in my hand while I'm watching the race on TV.
I think it's going to just make cycling so much more interesting, connect you really to the heart of what's really going on, and be able to see things like who's going the fastest.
But I know that at the end of each day, the guy gets a yellow jersey. He went fastest yesterday.
You wouldn't know that in the Dolphin, the previous race we were trialing it, one rider did we clocked a rider at 104 kilometers an hour. You wouldn't have known that before. You wouldn't have known.
Was that on a downhill? Please tell me it was. Clearly, good. Just checking.
Clearly.
But I mean, it does add an element of excitement. It adds an element. I suppose the betting public is going to love this as well, because you can take bets as who's going to be the king of the mountain, just how fast they're going to go.
I think it's going to be those kind of industries where for the first time they're going to get information they've never had before. So really exciting stuff for them, for the general user, but I think for the sport as well. Even for the teams to be able to know how fast the other teams are going, they've never had that access to that kind of information. So I would think even the performance maybe go up one more level.
This brings an added element to an increasingly scientific sport. Yes. But doesn't it take the sport out of the sport? Because suddenly the data gives another level of insight and intelligence to what is going on in the physical activity, the exertion.
I think it makes it richer. I think it makes it richer.
You hope it does, because
certainly that's our intent.
Dimension Data, you're a private company and now you're owned by the Japanese. This is not a cheap project. I mean, you've been busy on this for years, multiple continents, multiple cities, multiple teams of experts and analysts involved in this.
Yes, I think this is now a very cool application of the platforms we've been building over many, many years.
In idiot terms, you're building a platform. A platform to me is where a train pulls up.
Okay, so basically computing platforms around the world, where we've spent about $750 million making sure we have the infrastructure.
$750 million on building virtual platforms.
Yes. So then this would be one application, of which now we have lots of others, but this will be one service that would reside on this kind of platform. So we can provide back up the information, store all this information. You can imagine the volumes of information this generates. We can now look after it and then turn that through the analytics into intelligent information for you.
No, I mean, as the user, I don't really care about the background stuff,
Exactly.
but it's interesting though, because I sit on my phone and I go, Plink, I want to go onto the Tour de France app. I go there, I get taken to this platform, which is then supporting multiple other apps and innovations, I suspect.
So we have applications that involved in healthcare, in education, in many different verticals and different solutions that will be running on that same platform.
Okay, so that $750 million is an investment for Tour de France.
No,
that you never get that back.
No, clearly.
How do you monetize this, something like the Tour de France? Do you sell the app? Do we subscribe to the app? Is it a free application?
Today it is a free application. We're providing that information to the ASO. They own the race, and we provide the information to them, and they make it available to the media and to the world.
Okay, and at the beginning I said, do I measure the sweat output of one of the cyclists? And you went, not yet. Clearly there's an opportunity here to look at individual physical performance of athletes.
We certainly have a lot of innovation, exciting innovation in the pipeline, but as and available today, but critically we have to provide all that through our partner, the ASO. So if they are able to negotiate with the teams that we make certain information available, we could provide all the rider-specific information, like you say, heart rate, power, cadence. Those will
we eventually be able to pick out the cheats using the data?
Well,
would Lance Armstrong have been bust earlier had we had the data?
I'm not going there. Yeah.
It would be useful, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, cycling is quite a controversial sport, and so does the data then add to the controversy, or does it provide clarity? What does that level of disclosure do to the professional sport of cycling?
There must be clarity.
And we'll see how it's going to be used. It's going to be really interesting how it's going to be used. You're a cyclist yourself. You're a fan of getting on two wheels and propelling yourself as fast as you can forwards. Do you bring this then into sort of amateur races? Do you add it as an element into the 947 or into the Cape Argus, for example, or into the Amashova or that awful Cape Epic? I mean, people who ride it love it, but I can't imagine anything worse.
Well, we're also involved in the Cape Epic. So today, as Dimension Data Cycling, we've made the call to really try and make a difference to cycling through our technology solutions. It's the one sport we felt we could really make an impact. So we are, as you might know, a sponsor of and provide the technology for the ABSA Cape Epic. So we're in discussions with them to do similar kind of things.
And that also will, the individual athletes, I mean, these are amateurs, but people who take it seriously, they take a week out of their lives to go and ride in teams through some of the most beautiful countryside in the world.
Yes.
They can now benchmark themselves not only for this race, not only on an hour-by-hour, day-by-day process,
clearly,
but over a decade.
Absolutely, and they could go, if you think about us being able to store the data, they could also measure themselves on any one incline, decline, any part of the race against whoever else they would like to measure again, as these applications become more rich, the content. So you could be, or even against, you could go ride the Alpe d'Huez and see
how it did versus that.
Versus
is this the CEO folly? I mean, is this because you like cycling that Dimension Data is doing this, or is this just the opportunity to actually showcase the rest of the stuff that's going on in the background on the platform?
It's absolutely about that. It's about us making a difference to cycling, and what it will really do for us is reposition our brand, our whole performance into...
And finally, people will better figure out what it is that Dimension Data actually does.
Yeah, and a lot of what we do will actually be, hopefully, invisible to the user. They, as you say, are going to just click on an icon or a little button and get information, and it's our job to just do all the technical stuff behind that for them.
Do you get the global branding? Do you sort of get powered by Dimension Data on the screen and all of that sort of stuff?
On the screen, Tour de France, every day you will see the Dimension Data logo.
What's the value of that?
We think it's significant because it's the biggest single sporting event in the world. 21 days, millions and millions of people online, online and through the TV. We think that is a phenomenal return. Although for us, it's not about that sponsorship. It's really about taking our solution to markets for the ASO.
Well, what is it like working for a Japanese company? There are not many South Africans. I think the old Plascon is Japanese. Now Dimension Data is Japanese.
We've been in the entity family for about 5 years. And it's been fantastic. I mean, they have only through their very long perspective of investment and returns, could a company have been invested and been able to have the appetite for investment on these kind of services, which will only monetize in the fullness of time. It would have been tough as a
You'll
public
remember the
company.
days better than I will, and you'll correct the specifics, but the share price that I mentioned data with the listing in London going, was it 70 or was it $100? I don't remember. But there was one point where it hit something stratospheric, then plummeted all the way down into the 2s and 3s, and
Correct,
then sold at about 10 to the Japanese. You're lucky and happy, I suppose, you don't have to deal with that kind of noise anymore as a
Well, I think for
privateer.
us in the industry, in our industry, where we are, there's massive transition. And that massive transition and the changing in the technology itself, in the way our clients want to buy, there's so many changes. It is a fantastic time to actually be out of the public eye while we really reposition, transform and reimagine Dimension Data into a whole new entity. I mean, since we delisted, we're about twice the size. We've more than doubled the headcount, and that kind of investment profile which frankly would have been somewhat difficult as a public company.
And when you look at it today and what you're achieving today, 10 years ago, did you envisage what you were doing today then?
No,
Was it
10
part of
years
the
ago
plan?
we were part of that turnaround plan
Yeah.
after the dot-com bust, where things were very tough and we had to drive, as I said, turnaround plan in very, very tough times. Now, came through that, we had a profitable growth strategy for many years, and now through the last 5 years with the support of our shareholders, to transform Dimension Data, double it again, and really position us more in these kind of services than the traditional sort of technology resale.
Does it
position.
ever scare you? Does the technology advance ever scare you? This exponential growth we see in technology, stuff you wouldn't have dreamed of doing 5 years ago, you're doing today. You can't even begin to forecast what you'll be doing 5 years from now or 10 years from now.
No, we can't.
Does that ever wake you up in the middle of the night, you go, oh my goodness me, what am I part of?
Well, I think we've got to be paranoid about it, every single day, and vitally important. We try and stay, and I think we've been successful in that. We've got really smart people. We make sure that they are at that cutting edge. We've got to do enough of that. That sort of 80% of the business has always got to be, not really at the cutting edge, but for the folks that are actually adopting the technology, and we've got to be relevant.
You say paranoid, you mean good paranoid, bad paranoid?
good.
Like
I mean,
the technology is running away with us, or we're in control of the technology?
We must always make sure that we are bringing the right technology to our clients, so that just to make sure we are innovating enough and staying and bringing the right stuff to our clients. You could also get lost in doing so many things.
It's got to pay.
Our biggest challenge as a business has always been to choose what we're not going to do. So where do we focus to make sure we're delivering the right stuff?
You've got to pay the bill for that massive platform that
Correct.
you've delivered. Brett Dawson, Dimension Data's Group Chief Executive, with stunning breakthroughs in technology which will allow you to keep an eye on your favorite rider on the Tour de France. It'll also bring a data element to the Tour de France that's never been there before. And before long, who knows, the next Lance Armstrong, better watch out. There'll be more tonight, tomorrow. Till then, bye-bye.